have been married for about 45 years. God bless them. When they got married, they didn't have much stuff, so they headed down to Sears and Roebuck, and they bought a coffee table and a couple of end tables. And not long after that, they got into one of those knock-down, drag-out, serious, marital, threatening arguments. And they started a family tradition. I wasn't there at the time because I wasn't born until '68. But that coffee table has been there my whole life. I know that because under the coffee table was where I had got a hook to it with a crayon, and I hadn't even been able to make letters yet. It was just scribbled with black crayon. I guess my brother only let me have the black one. And what they devised as a way to end any marital disagreement is whoever is able to get to the coffee table and throw it out the front door wins. Now, these didn't happen every day or every year. That was reserved for serious disagreements. You know, like the time that Mama found the phone number of some woman in his wallet. Or the time we got back from grocery shopping and Daddy had given away Mama's dog. And they both had their own individual styles of how they threw the coffee table. Now, Mama was very flamboyant, and she would march over to the front door and fling it open. And one time she flung that door so hard it shut back on her. And she was not happy about that. And she had to open it back up, and she'd go over to the coffee table, and she'd take one arm, and she'd just sling everything as far as she could off that coffee table. And we'd spend days trying to find that stuff that was on the coffee table. And then she'd grab that table, and she'd wrestle it, and she never could get it quite right. And one time she couldn't get out the door. She got hung up in the door, and she got even madder. But finally, when she'd get out on the front porch, she'd thump it out there, and sometimes it landed on its legs. Sometimes it landed on the top. Sometimes it landed on the side. Sometimes it landed only on one leg. But that was a Sears and Roebuck table. So it didn't break. It was made out of real wood. It had real screws. It had real glue. You know, today we go to Walmart. We don't go to Sears anymore. And we get that table back in the house, and you never would know that it'd been in the yard a few minutes before. Now, Daddy's method of the coffee table was to go over there to it, and he'd flip it up real quick. And everything would just fall in one neat pile. It'd be easy for me to get everything back together. And he'd grab one leg, and on the side of that coffee table was a little lip. And he'd have one leg over here in his hand, and he'd have the lip. And he'd go out, and when he went out the door, he'd have it in front of him so he wouldn't get hung, you know. Don't want to mess up your routine. He'd get out there, and he'd flip it upside down to where it kind of looked like a frisbee. That flat part was on the bottom. And he'd fling it like a rock on a pond, and it just skipped across the yard. And the farther it went, the madder he was. Well, one time, I don't remember what they was fighting about, but Mama saw him go for the door. And she didn't want to lose that particular battle. So she run for the table. And they fought over the table. Now that was fun. Now me and my brother, when this was going on, you was up against the wall, you wasn't breathing, you wasn't moving, you sure didn't say nothing. Because you didn't want to be thrown out with the table. So they kept this going for years. I mean, this is a good coffee table. And about 6 years ago, I got a phone call from Mama. And it was on a Tuesday evening. And I knew immediately something was wrong. Mama only calls me on Sunday. She calls me on Sunday, and she says, "Well, I ain't heard from you. I was calling to see if you're still alive." And then we have our little conversation, and that's our weekly phone call. So when the phone rang, it was Mama. I says, "Everything all right?" "Well, you know, I just don't know." "Well, what is it, Mama?" "Well, You know, I'm afraid of your daddy. You know, all these years we've been married, he's never raised a hand to me. He's never hit me. I ain't never been afraid of him. But I'm afraid. I said, Lord, help me, Mama, what happened? Well, you know I need a new car. Yes, ma'am. You've been saying that for about 6 months. Well, yes, and I've been telling your daddy to go get me a new car. And he wouldn't do it. And I couldn't take it no more. So I went up there to Selma the other day, and I got me a new car. Now, I did take the title to his Ford Taurus up there with me. Now, Mama does have a problem with forgery among family. And she sold his car to get her a new car. She says, well, he said there wasn't nothing wrong with mine, so I figured he might as well get rid of his, and he could have mine if it was so darn good. So she said, I got home, and he saw that car, and he says, where's my Ford? And, well, I didn't say nothing. I knew he wasn't going to be too happy, and, well, he figured out that I sold it, and we got to arguing. And I figured it'd be about like all the other times, and we went at it for a while, and then I let him throw the table out the front door. And I went and sat down in my chair and started reading the paper. I thought it was over. And about that time, I heard the chainsaw back at the shed. And she said, and then it kept getting louder, but, you know, I thought maybe a tree fell down somewhere and he needed to do something. I didn't know. And it kept getting louder, and as it came up to the front of the house, well, I started getting a little scared. Then all of a sudden I heard, he cut up the table. I ain't said a word to him since. I said, well, Mama, when did this happen? Oh, it was last week sometime. I can't remember, but I'm scared to talk to him. I said, well, Mama, let me come on home. I'll be there Saturday. So when I got there Saturday, I pulled up in the yard, and Daddy was in the house, and when I walked in, he walked out. And Mama's sitting there in her chair. Now, Mama's chair is Mama's chair. Can't nobody else sit in it. You come to visit, don't sit in Mama's chair. So she's sitting there in her chair reading her paper, and I look at her, and she says, and there's a brand new coffee table sitting there in the living room. And she said, so I walked past the coffee table, and as I walked by it, I could have swore it kind of shimmied a little bit as I walked by it. And I sat down, and Daddy went on out, and Mama says, yeah, I went to Walmart this morning, and I picked up us a new table. I says, really? And I leaned over, and I poked it with my finger. And it started moving this way and that way. It jiggled like Jell-O. And I looked at Mama, and I says, Mama, I don't think y'all can afford to fight no more.